Think we lost all, but who will take the fall? Who will win it all? You know the cost, still you go through walls. Keep on acting small. Even if you got something left to lose, even if there is something left for you to prove, I got bad taste of hanging around you. I'm so sorry about the bitter end. I'm so sorry if I misbehaved. In the middle we got tangled up, but in the aftermath of us, I don't regret that much.
Welcome back to Romania from Bucharest, the nation's capital with some 1.8 million people. Bucharest is maybe one of the most misunderstood places in Europe. Bloggers and travel writers offer wildly divergent impressions of it. Some admire it for its eclectic vibe. Others tell their audience to skip it entirely, that there's little to see or do here. Well, first, there's plenty to see and do here. And second, if you want to understand Romania, there's no way you can do it without getting a sense of Bucharest, from which so much of the country's politics, economy, and culture emanate. This is a raw and real city without a singularly identifiable tourist attraction to define it. There's no Eiffel Tower or Buckingham Palace here. Much of elegant Bucharest was destroyed by bombs during World War II, and after the war, the city and the country underwent 4 decades of communist misery, capped by a long reign of terror under the dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. That helps explain the shape of Bucharest today. Remnants of its elegant past that survived the bombs, mostly in the city's old quarter, with the stark, drab Soviet architecture that reflects Bucharest after World War II, up until the Romanian Revolution of 1989. This is one of the city's and Romania's most iconic plazas, Revolution Square. This was Palace Square before the 1989 revolution, and the former Royal Palace you can see behind me. It is now the National Museum of Art, and it shares space on the square with the University of Bucharest Library and the beautiful Athenaeum, the city's grand concert hall. The building that you see behind me is the Ministry of the Interior, but in 1989 it was the headquarters of the country's Communist Central Committee. Both the building and this square figure prominently in the rise and fall of the former dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. It was here on the plaza on December 21st, 1989, at about the spot where I'm standing, that Ceausescu chose to give a speech that he was confident would shore up his crumbling regime. Instead, to his dismay, people began booing. And before it was over, he and his wife, Elena, escaped the crowd by climbing aboard a helicopter on the rooftop. But they didn't get far. When the army turned on him, the pair were arrested in a town 50 miles northwest of Bucharest, and after a show trial, were executed by firing squad at a military base there. This monument, put up in 2005, honors the martyrs of the 1989 revolution. It's only a stone's throw away from a statue of Carol I, one of the early kings of Romania. Had Ceausescu had his way, this monument may have been a statue of him instead of a memorial to those who died fighting him. Despite its historical and cultural significance, this square has not been treated kindly from a preservation standpoint. In fact, it's really a stretch to call it a square at all, since it's been loaded up with parking lots, large, garish, outdoor advertising billboards behind one of those parking lots. It is, however, a nodal point of modern Romanian history. This is Old Town, which is essentially what's left of pre-World War II, pre-communist Bucharest. The war's destruction took a heavy toll in the city, but you can walk the streets here and get a sense of what Bucharest, at the height of its Art Deco glory of the 1800s, must have looked like, and still does. I'm here on the cobbled and narrow Strada Lipscani Street, where, like everywhere else in this district, you can see beautiful old buildings, some restored, some not, but which you know will be, as Bucharest continues to resurrect and retranslate its past. Some places in Old Town are just astounding in the sense that there's no street. There's what appears to be the entry to a building, and you go inside and it's a roofed alleyway through a building. Little shops and cafes on each side, such as this one. It finally empties out on another corner and into more dining, except outdoors. As you can see, this area has been reborn with boutiques, bars, cafes, and most of all restaurants, and is a focal point of the city's nightlife. I've just entered what may be one of the grandest bookstores you'll find anywhere. This is the Cărtărește Carousel, which I believe translates as Scholars Carousel, or maybe Scholars Books, I'm not sure. But it's a wonderland for book lovers. I mean, just look at this place. Giant columns, spiral staircases, really chic furniture. It's a monument to modern book retailing, I would say. This place has 6 levels, including one that's underground, and an elevator, I might add, but who cares about that? How often can you say you've walked up a spiral staircase in a bookstore? Besides books here, you can also buy vinyl records, CDs, DVDs, toys, board games, even wine and tea. I may have forgotten to mention that there's a cafe at the top level of this bookstore where people are sitting around the edge of this vast atrium attending to their digital duties, and where baristas are serving up coffee drinks at the other end. And oh yeah, there's also an art gallery on the floor just beneath me. I can't help noticing while I travel in Romania the extent to which people value reading here. I mean, you can just tell. You see grown-ups and children bringing books onto public transit, and there are even book vending machines at some of the train stations. So for those of you who may be giving up on the ill effects of social media, there may still be hope. This is the oldest church in Bucharest, dating to the late 1500s. It was a place where the former kings of Wallachia, the predecessor polity of modern Romania, came to pray before battles and important decisions, and near where coronations were conducted for nearly 200 years. This is a relatively small church by Roman Catholic standards if you think of the great basilicas and cathedrals that you find around the world. And of course, this isn't a Roman Catholic church. It's a Romanian Orthodox church,
long part of not only the religious structure of this country and its forerunner, but very much part of its historic politics.
Porta Vecchia Church was built as part of a larger palace complex, the palace built for Vlad III, Vlad the Impaler as he was often known, in 1459. Vlad was the king of Wallachia, the dominant polity in this region that later combined with Moldavia in 1859 to create modern Romania. He was famous, or I should say infamous, for maintaining power by brute force. And there's one other thing. Vlad had a nickname. It was Dracula. Vlad's nickname might have remained an obscure piece of history if not for an Irish author and theater manager named Bram Stoker, who in 1897 wrote a fictional horror story based largely on Transylvanian folklore, and whose central character was a Count Dracula. The rest, as they say, is history. But what I would like to show you about that history, that is the rest of this royal residence, the palace built for Vlad the Dracula, I can't do so because it's under restoration.
There's one monument to Romania's former dictator that Bucharest can't get rid of. Its sprawling parliament building, ordered up in the 80s and finished after he died. At 9 billion tons, it is one of the heaviest buildings on Earth. It left Romanians on the hook for $3 billion, but by the time of the former leader's execution, it had become too big to fail.
I'm speaking architecturally here, but it's really set apart. It's on the backside of a multi-lane thoroughfare with a grand semicircular plaza in front on the opposite side. A plaza, by the way, with cobbled bricks, but which has been long used as a parking lot. And then the grand boulevard leading up to the front of the building, the one with all the fountains, might remind one, in theory at least, of some of the great boulevards of the world. But it is choked off by apartment buildings. Its vegetation is semi-attended, and it is merely a congested thoroughfare as you walk down this beautiful tree-lined walkway, which is set back from the boulevard that leads up to the Parliament building. You can barely see the Parliament, which I guess may or may not be a blessing. But once you get down to the end of this leafy and pleasant promenade, there are a few cars parked on the promenade itself, and you're separated from the great landmark by a multi-lane avenue of streaking cars. And a tall fence to keep one well away. King Michael I Park, where I'm walking, is one of the better places to take a time out from the streets. This is a huge place. It's nearly 500 acres with a large, beautiful lake. When it was opened in the 1930s, it was named for the then reigning King Carol II, when Romania was still a constitutional monarchy. After the communists took over in 1947, they had the idea of naming this park Stalin Park, and even erected a statue of him, which later got unceremoniously knocked down. Post 1989, the park became Harastra Park. Forgive the bad Romanian pronunciation. It means sawmill. But in recent years, it's become officially Michael I Park in honor of the last king to sit on the throne in 1947. That was shortly after he died in 2017 that they named it for the ex-king. Some of you may be wondering where the royal family of Romania went after Michael I left the throne. And the answer is really nowhere. In fact, the royal family, or ex-royal family to be precise, live right here in this park, in Elizabeta Palace. The building you see behind me and the white wall attached to it is part of the palace grounds. The Romanian government awarded King Michael I use of this palace by decree in 2001, giving him the rights to live out his life there. And after his death, his family members have continued to be there. In fact, his eldest daughter is custodian of the crown, as she is referred to. I've been walking through this park now for a while, and it's just absolutely chock full of beautiful oak trees. And there are acorns all over the ground in some places, just like a blanket of acorns. And yet, I have seen absolutely no squirrels. So what's with that? Are there squirrels in Romania? Has to be. If you know the answer, just drop me a line and let me know. It's very unusual.
Even if you got